This is one of their mobile kitchens, and they actually...
Is that even some, what I call habitual...
Beautiful Stop and Shop in the Wilton. Penalty, but it was actually a tax, and that it... Absolutely. What's the name of the show? Good evening and welcome once again to the Marty Heiser Show. I'm your host, Marty Heiser. I'll be here for the whole hour. You want to know why? Because it's my show. That's why I'm going to be here for the whole hour. I got nothing better to do. This is Cable Access
Rangers
coming to you. Rangers are done. Knicks, forget about it. But I want to tell you, there is a team in Chicago on West Madison Street called the Chicago Blackhawks. We all know the song. Let's sing it together. Here come the Hawks, the mighty Black... Okay, never mind. We're going to go right to the serious stuff. The Blackhawks just won a Game 7. As if that wasn't enough drama, it went to OT, and they dispatched the Detroit Red Wings. For you hockey fans out there, that's right, one of the original 6 teams in a real barn burner. Went to 7 games, went to overtime, but the Hawks prevailed. There was much joy on the west side of Chicago, and now they take on the L.A. Kings. L.A., Chicago, you got to love it. And then, of course, you got Pittsburgh playing Boston. It's pretty good, down to the Final Four in the NHL. And even the Islanders had a cup of coffee in the playoffs, which is a beautiful thing.
6 games, yeah.
6 games.
First time since 2007.
You got to love that. Now, but more importantly, and for those of you that are getting this on tape delay, I pity you. Because those of you that are getting this live, you're getting the scores right up to date. 2-1. The Mets are winning, top of the 7th. They're going into Yankee Stadium, and they're spanking their big brothers. For us Mets fans, there hasn't been much to cheer about. But the fact that they're about to sweep, that's right, sweep the Yankees, that is pretty exciting, and we're pretty excited about that. So the Mets are up 2-1, top of the 7th. This is what? Thursday night, May 30th. So if you're watching live, don't go over there. We'll give you the scores. I think it's breaking the rules, but, you know, I'm part of the Tea Party, so who's afraid of federal government coming after me? Okay.
Is that the IRS knocking at the door?
I hope not. They've already, I'm pretty sure I'm on all the lists. Bring it on. That's what I say. Okay, now, here's a thought I want to just share with you, my vast viewing audience. A concept. Here's the concept. Conservatives are dumb. Okay, can we all agree on that? Conservatives just aren't that smart, but the really smart guys are the liberals. Ooh, are they a smart bunch. They go to really good schools and they believe all the right things, and they go to all the right cocktail parties. They're the smart ones. Now let me just review recently what's happened, say in the last week. I give you Exhibit A. This is Commissioner Doug Shulman. He's the commissioner of the IRS. He is a Democratic supporter, although some would point out that he was appointed by Bush, but he has contributed to Democrats. He is part and parcel of the Obama administration. Commissioner Doug Shulman lifted up his hand and swore. When you give sworn testimony, that's a big deal. When you're sworn in before Congress, you're not supposed to tell a lie. And he raised his right hand and swore that he would tell the truth. And he said he was emphatic, there was absolutely no targeting of anyone by the IRS. He's the commissioner of the IRS. Guess what? He was lying. You can't lie to Congress. You can lie to your wife. You can lie about your golf score. You can lie about the fish you caught, but you can't lie to Congress.
I went to that to Roger Clemens.
Well, okay, that's another story. This gentleman, Commissioner Doug Shulman, visited the White House 157 times. The previous commissioner of the IRS visited the White House once. When asked in Congress the people that he lied to under oath, he said that there was never any discussion about targeting the conservative groups. There was never any political discussions like that. As a matter of fact, he mentioned that he was there mainly for Easter egg rolls with his children. This is the commissioner, Doug Shulman of the IRS. one of the really, really, really smart liberals. But he did something really, really dumb. He lied to Congress. Now, while we're at it, here is Attorney General Eric Holder. Now, this is a darling of the liberals. Really, really smart guy. Goes to Ivy League schools. Like Larry, Ivy League schools. University of Pennsylvania. Ivy League schools. He's one of the smart guys. He swore an oath and went before Congress, and he said the following things. And by the way, we have that tape ready. He said, I would not even consider targeting journalists. That's something that we never even thought of or never even did anything. And come to find out, not only did he target journalists, not just Fox journalists, but AP journalists, but he also signed off on the subpoenas. And now in a desperate, Michael Jackson backpedaling moonwalk, he's saying, hey, you journalists, couldn't we just all get together and have a cup of tea and chat a little bit? Oh no, it'll be off the record. It'll just be us liberals sitting around talking. Nothing I say I want to have printed or broadcast. And you know what? Finally, the press is saying, they're saying, listen, we're not coming to your little tat-a-tat there. So there you have Eric Holder, Schulman, both these incredibly intelligent liberals doing really, really stupid stuff, like lying to Congress. We have a videotape, hopefully, we'll roll that right now, and then we have an incredible brain trust here that are going to be discussing these issues, and we want you to call in as well. Here's the videotape in just a minute. But before we go to the videotape, let me just take a minute. When it's ready, let me know. But we're going to go to the videotape, but we might not. Next thing I'd like to talk about is my tie. If you'll know, here we go.
Well, good morning, Charlie. Good morning, Nora. We're really seeing kind of what is a drumbeat of criticism, and it's all saying Eric Holder needs to go. This latest criticism, though, is focused on his congressional testimony about the Justice Department's crackdown on leaks to reporters. 2 weeks ago, Attorney General Eric Holder was answering questions about the Obama administration's controversial decision to seize 2 months of phone records from the Associated Press when he told Congress,
with regard to the potential prosecution of the press for the disclosure of material, that is not something that I've ever been involved in, heard of, or would think would be a wise policy.
But a Justice Department statement released 9 days after Holder's testimony shows he was involved in a separate case, approving a search warrant for personal emails and cell phone records of Fox News reporter James Rosen. In the Rosen investigation, the FBI was trying to find out who inside the government leaked the reporter classified information on North Korea. The warrant authorizing the search labeled Rosen as a potential criminal. Even Democrats were critical.
Which is more important, the government's desire to keep the information, to find out who leaked the information, or the robust freedom of the press?
Holder's approval of the Rosen search triggered calls from conservative and liberal voices for Holder to resign. The Attorney General is reportedly stung by the leak controversy and is doing some soul searching. Asked by reporters on Tuesday if he had any regrets, Holder said, "I'm not satisfied. I'm not satisfied." But the one thing Holder has been able to count on, the support of the president.
He's an outstanding Attorney General and does his job with integrity, and I expect he will continue to do so.
Holder is now looking into how the Justice Department handles these leak investigations. And critics say, that is just a terrible idea that the Attorney General can't investigate himself, and there should be this outside group doing that. But Charlie and Nora, it is worth pointing out that Holder has survived controversies before, including, as you recall, when he had to back away from his vow to try a top 9/11 terrorist in a civilian court. But now, what everyone in Washington is talking about is whether the president is going to continue to support his Attorney General, or even a survivor like Eric Holder get drummed out.
Yeah, when you have CBS going after you and you're the Democratic Attorney General, and the kiss of death is always the, I support my fill in the blank and stand behind him completely. You might as well start, pumping up that resume and looking for your next job when stuff like that happens. And by the way, that was Senator Chuck Schumer, another very, very intelligent liberal, And he, of course, said that the three branches of government are Congress, the Senate, and the executive branch. That was Chuck Schumer. Of course, the three branches of government are the Congress, including the House of Representatives and the Senate in the Congress, the executive branch, and the oft-forgotten judicial branch. So I would just propose, and I realize we're in the Northeast, and I realize that conservatives are out of favor, and I realize that conservatives are thought of as not quite as intelligent as liberals. But in this case, it would seem as if the liberals are doing some very, very dumb things. And that goes right up to the top to the president. And I realize everyone I'm speaking to now most likely voted for the president, most likely has Obama stickers on your car. And so this is a bit of a tough pill to swallow. But it's just something to consider. And to help us consider that, I want to introduce this august roundtable. We are joined by Larry Ditkoff, investment analyst extraordinaire and savant. He can just real quick the starting infield of the Chicago Cubs 1969 team. Ron Santo,
Glenn Decker.
Don Kissinger.
Don Kissinger.
and
Ernie
let's
Banks.
play two.
Let's play two Ernie Banks.
Okay, very good. And we have Dave Streit, another, I'm not sure exactly what he does, but he's made a lot of money. He's got a big house. He's an investment guy. Dave
And I show
Streit.
up every Thursday night.
And you show up every Thursday night. Whatever we're paying you, double it. And finally, the brains of the outfit, Al Alper, who's also, among other things, chairman of the Republican Party in Wilton, or at least past chairman.
No, still chairman in Wilton, in Free Wilton, we like to call it.
Very good. And by the way, and this is not for nothing, but James Taylor, I was dying to tell the vast viewing audience, but James Taylor came and gave a concert at Walnut Hill Community Church last, what was it? Friday night?
It was
last Friday night. And it was really, it was primarily for the people from Sandy Hook and their families.
The survivors and family of the Sandy Hook victims.
But it was kept very, very hush-hush.
Yeah,
now we can let the cat out of the bag.
They did a very good job, actually, keeping that under wraps. Not many people
Did
knew
you say,
about
I've
it.
seen fire, I've seen rain?
Yep, I've seen fire, I've seen rain.
Is he going to go to Boston and do one up there, too?
I don't know. He might. But it was very touching.
Did a great
Okay.
job.
Larry, quickly,
Yes.
where do I got this wrong? Am I wrong? Are liberals really smart and I'm just misconstruing this? Are these guys headed for prison or am I all wet?
Well, Marty, I think a lot of people are smart. I mean, I think you have people from, there are a lot of intelligent people on both sides of the aisle. You know what I do seem to question, though, when you have, you have a lot of smart conservatives, it's pretty much, I mean, Dave, Al, unfortunately Jim isn't here. All I really hear are these attacks on the Obama administration about specific things, or even liberals. You pointed out Chuck Schumer was critical of the Attorney General. Say, things are done which were wrong. I don't usually come with my own show and tell, but I do today. How many guys on the left do you know read the National Review? I do. And on the cover, I just got this in the mail, so I haven't read it yet. If you can see it.
I'll hold it up for you. I'll hold it up and you
good. All right, it's a caricature of Hillary Clinton as Benghazi burned. Now
she's fiddling. You know who they're referring to? Nero. She's fiddling.
She's fiddling, guys. Yes, I know. I get it.
Rome burned.
I'm sorry. Again, we're
know
dealing with the liberals. Sometimes they're not quite as quick on the uptick with the analogies.
So much for the
I
rules.
didn't-
and the literary
Yes.
references
There goes that
to a
really
Roman
smart theory
emperor.
out the door.
We need to slow things down just a little
Marty,
bit.
I can't
But
even
the
say
cover-
opine in front of you without asking you to
What
answer
I believe the
point,
cover is referring to is Nero
Marty, I know what
was
the cover's referring
fiddling
to.
while Rome burned.
Yes, Marty.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, the point being is that, I think a lot of guys on the right, you're like the fat guy in the singles bar who hasn't taken a shower in a week and then doesn't go home with a, it's a little visual, but then does it and then can't find a woman, or the guy who picks the horse that finishes 7th at Belmont and then hands in the ticket and doesn't understand why they don't get money. You guys have no game, Marty. It's not that you're not smart. It's just you have no game. You just keep concentrating and harping on things like this.
So Benghazi is a non-issue from your point of view.
Marty, okay, Benghazi happened, I believe it was October. It was a terrible thing. It was investigated.
And we
You know,
never
4
got-
people.
never got
Okay.
the facts out of
Yeah,
it.
well, you know, you can argue. Well,
investigation,
that you
though.
don't really.
Come on.
Well, what about investigations into the money? Guys like Dick Cheney made, but in terms of what went on with
So
Iraq.
we're going
What
back to
about-
Bush.
No, but
No. The point. Allow me to finish. The point I'm trying to make, Martin. No, we're not going to go back to Bush. I certainly hope we're not going back to
Cheney.
Bush in 2016. But the idea is you harp and harp and harp on, I'm sure you're going to bring up Guantanamo as well. Certain negative
think
things
Guantanamo's
where
a
people
good
were,
deal.
where people were and where things where mistakes were made. And I'm not saying no one's really. Al Robinson called in and said, yeah, the IRS was wrong to target those
Okay.
conservative groups. There's no question. I mean, it's not a question about it. But you do that when you completely ignore a lot of the positives that have come out of the
Okay.
administration.
But to be fair,
Al,
that's
please.
exactly what the liberals did during Bush's. It's sort of like that exact speech. You could say, insert party here. So today it happens to be you're degrading the conservatives as not having a game. I could have said the same thing about the liberals during the Bush 8-year presidency. You can go back and say the same thing about the conservatives during Clinton's era. You can go back and say the same thing about the liberals during Reagan.
Okay.
It is the flavor of the moment who's in charge, and those people who support him, yourself and others like him, say that we don't have our game, we're harping on one thing.
Yeah,
I can pick any one of those presidencies and take Bush and Reagan, and even Bush Sr., and I could say the exact same thing about every liberal that ever was and ever will be part of that era, and they said the exact same thing, did the exact same thing.
Well, let's talk about Bush 43, because the people who complain about Bush 43 didn't talk about things that didn't relate to a relatively small number.
They
of people.
burned him in effigy, calling him a murderer.
He started 2 wars on bad information. He presided over
That
financial.
every
he
major
presided over
leader
financial
in the
crisis.
world agreed with.
He presided
You
over
cannot
financial
possibly
crisis.
say-
He presided over financial crisis that, in many regards, was his doing.
That-
So, I mean, I don't think the two things are comparable. Obama's had a lot of, there have been a lot of positives.
Caller,
Even-
before we go to the caller, real quick, a hat trick of good things. Drone strike on the second guy in charge of the Taliban out of
was a good
Pakistan.
deal.
Raymond.
Took him
Oh.
out,
Out.
nice shot.
Raymond, gone.
Good shooting, President. Keep it up, good job. Housing prices rebounding smartly. In some areas, 22% up, 11%
Yeah, I
up,
saw it.
coming back nicely. Stock market, just off the charts,
smoking,
doing very
yeah.
well. So, President Obama, I salute you. Good shooting, good job on house prices, and good job on the stock market. Caller, do you have a question for this august group? Go ahead.
Yes, it's both a question and a comment. The 3 of you are sitting around, or 4 of you, flopping your gums because you won't tackle things close to home. It's safe to criticize both the Republicans and the Democrats, but the people at home, Marty, you're included. You're on the Board of Finance. I have tried to work through the Board of Selectmen. You guys don't want to tackle the issues at home, and when my issue explodes in the town of Ridgefield, a lot of people are going to be shamefaced. And in this, I agree with Larry, and trust me, there's not much I would agree with Larry.
Shit.
He is...
This is cutting to the bone, but go ahead.
That's okay.
I mean, you flap your gums about issues you have no ability to do anything about. You won't even go into town politics and be either Democrats or Republicans, but yet you can sit there with straight faces and flap your guns whether you're for or against Obama.
So we need to bring this down to the local level and quit pontificating about federal stuff.
And you won't do it because you know what? That's painful, and you don't want people mad at you. I would really like somebody to comment, because usually what you do is you go off and you flap your gums against all this other stuff. What about the corruption we know that is taking place in Ridgefield? In elected officials and appointed people in the town.
Okay. All right.
I hope you do answer it, because up to this point, you have never done it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well,
Slap your gums, man.
Well,
I
is it
don't
corruption? I'm not
I don't know. The lady agrees with you. which is, you know, no, she's talking about like a issue with her house and.
So let me just give her two local
yes.
stories. One of which I think is, and then we can jump back to the.
Is this going to be that teacher with the unfortunate situation?
That was in
okay.
Ridgefield. Yeah.
Now I'm sure that wasn't Ridgefield, but go ahead.
That situation in Ridgefield last week was quite tragic, where that guy was shot. Right?
That was bad.
That was too bad. But today, the UConn baseball coach is going in for testing to see if he can donate part of his liver to a fellow baseball player and teammate, which is pretty neat. So,
nice.
If he is eligible to do that, I hand it to him for taking that on. The other thing is Al Robinson called in last week, and he was really confused, thinking that something got passed into law, and it didn't. But it was HB 5412, and HB 5412 was passed by the House, and it's going to go on to the Senate. But what that would allow would be deer hunting on Sundays on private land. And that was actually a bill that I was up in Hartford testifying on behalf of earlier in the year, and it looks like it may actually, get signed into law at some point.
In a nutshell, this is a law that allows hunting on Sundays. Is that right?
On private land, yeah.
On private land.
Right.
You can't hunt on Sunday now?
Apparently not.
Not legally.
But I mean,
legally, yeah.
the juxtaposition of legal alcohol sales and now legal hunting on Sunday, it would seem like if we could,
We're evolving.
We're evolving. As a state, you can now drink and hunt on the same day. I'm sure there's nothing
anyway,
there. But
so that's our nugget on local news.
Okay, hold on one second. Al Robinson, Hat City Blog. Thanks for joining us. And by the way, those of you, and this is, neither here nor there, but your daughter is so unbelievably cute in that little dance outfit. I'm just saying. Very, very cute daughter.
Yeah, she's got a future.
I'm telling you.
All the way.
All right. Okay, so where are we wrong? And by the way, stay tuned because we have an expose of a side-by-side video of Richard Nixon and President Obama and their excuses. We got it queued up. So you'll want, I don't know if you videotape these shows at home, Al, but you'll want to watch that. But where are we wrong? Go right ahead.
I'm more than happy to email on this. I'm going to be very happy when I get back up to speed and come after you guys on a lot of the nonsense you speak of. But I heard your partner in crime flapping his gums about me.
Well, what is this flapping of gums thing? Was that like a memo that went on just to accuse them of flapping of their gums? All right, go ahead. Sorry.
There's a lot of flapping of gums on this show every week because you guys change with the topics every week and you don't really know what you're talking about. But with Dave, I said to you that it passed the House, that bill, in terms of allowing deer hunting on Sunday. I didn't say it came to law, so you're a little mistaken. Watch the video. And on top of that, I asked you about your comments about the restrictions that were put place on that bill, which I didn't think you would be in favor of, but you seemed kind of confused. You didn't really seem like you knew what I was talking about last week because you're so obsessed about Obama that you didn't know a lot about local politics, which is the whole customized conversation. Because it wasn't about deer hunting on Sunday.
This is really kind of funny, Al, because I was up in Hartford testifying in support of HB 5412. I don't know who you were.
Next we can talk about it. Marty.
Yes.
As a hockey fan, I just want to drop politics for a second. I want to talk to you about this. What about that game when Chicago hit that goal with seconds to go and it was called off because of a ridiculous penalty?
Yeah.
What would have happened if Chicago would have lost that game? Would you have lost your mind?
Yes, I would have, frankly. I believe the fact that the Blackhawks won indicates that there is a loving and just God. And it only seemed right. But yeah, that was a late goal. There's a minute 36 left in the game, something like that. And they had a really stupid call behind the play that negated the goal. It went into overtime, and the Hawks prevailed. But Al, we want you back in here. You're coming back in, right?
Well, one last thing, the other guy.
Quickly, because we want to get to this Nixon video. You're going to love it. Go ahead.
Well, real fast. Got an Al over there from Wilson Town Committee Chairman. I've been dying to wait for him to come back on the show.
He's here.
This in relation to the question I brought up last week. I didn't really get answered by your man Chris Murray because he kind of like danced around it and didn't take really a whole lot of responsibility for Jim Hines' winning in Richfield. So to your...
How did Jim Hines do in Wilton?
Let me just ask this real quick.
Okay, real quick.
Between 2008 and 2012, Jim Hines has won more and more votes within the 4th District. And if you look between 2010, I think in 2012, he won more votes in Wilton. What is the reason for that? And do you take any responsibility for Jim Heiser receiving more votes in your area?
Excellent question. Excellent question. All the best. Talk to you soon. And come on in. All right, what about that? Jim Himes, a local Democrat congressman, has gained more and more votes in Wilton. How do you describe that? You're the head of the Republicans. Don't the three of you get together and try and stop that?
So he still hasn't gained a majority of the votes in Wilton, so that's not really relevant as far as I'm concerned. He will pick up necessarily some votes. If you look overall, we consume about 43% of the vote of Wilton, and so you've got 58% that are up for grabs. He portrays himself as a moderate, and Wiltonians like to believe that they are generally moderate, and all in all they are. So it wouldn't be surprising he's picking up votes, but he doesn't win. So as long as he doesn't win, we're doing our job.
Okay, now we've been accused of flapping our guns or flapping our gums.
Can't flap your gums anymore in Connecticut.
You can't do that. That's illegal in Connecticut. They'll be taken away from you. What do you think? Do you think these controversies that we're seeing that are inundating the White House, you've got the IRS, you've got the AP spying on journalists, and we had the Benghazi one where they basically lied to the public saying it was a spontaneous uprising as a result of a YouTube video. They did this with a straight face, even the president of the United Nations. Is this going to affect the presidency, and are we beginning to see a circle the wagon bunker mentality like we saw in the Nixon administration? Before you answer, let's go to the videotape and see if there's any water in this or if this is just another wacky right-wing wishful thinking thing. So we're going to go to the videotape in really pretty much...
I have to tell you that is exactly the approach that the Nixon administration took.
I first learned from news reports.
I first learned about it from the same news reports that I think most people learned about this.
The comments I made during this period, the comments made by my press secretary in my behalf, were based on the information provided to us at the time we made those comments.
Keep in mind, by the way, these so-called talking points that were prepared pretty much matched the assessments that I was receiving at that time.
And had we not had that kind of security and that kind of secrecy that allowed for the kind of exchange that is essential,
leaks related to national security can put people at risk.
I must now turn my full attention, and I shall do so once again, to the larger duties of this office.
Others may get distracted by chasing every fleeting issue that passes by, but the middle class will always be my number one focus, period.
In any organization, the man at the top must bear the responsibility. That responsibility, therefore, belongs here, in this office. I accept it.
Okay, now is that just wishful thinking? And I want to thank Dave Streit for putting that video together or getting it off the internet. Frankly, that's how we know everything is true that we say on this show, because we get it right off the internet. So you can count on what you're hearing on the Marty Heiser Show, where you always get the truth. Dave, is that just wishful thinking? Is this flights of fantasy of a conservative that just thinks that this is actually going to happen?
Yeah. First of all, I think we really do need to push to get Al Robinson in here, because he gets really confused when he catches parts of stories and then he calls in and tries to backpedal on this stuff. But anyway, let me address this. Think about it. We've got three of the worst scandals potentially in my lifetime that's happened in Washington. The abuse of power with investigating the press, intimidating the press, going around the country trying to find a judge that will sign off on a statement to try and make it look like somehow or other this guy that's working for Fox News is a criminal. All he's doing is his job. If there's a leak, it's not his fault or his problem, right? Then you've got the IRS targeting, as well as the FBI and other government agencies targeting people. Then you've got the Benghazi cover-up. We still don't get the truth out of there. And guess what? Obama's approval rating is inching up, not down. Why is that? And I had this epiphany in the last couple of weeks. There's not a single thing that a Democrat can do in office that will cause outrage in his own party. Anthony Weiner is almost ahead in the polls right now. Does anybody care about that? No. Now we've got Holder probing Holder. And it makes perfect sense. And he's going to come out and say, well, I investigated myself, and I find myself to be quite innocent. And the liberals will say, yeah, I can see that. Works for me. What's for dinner? They drink the Kool-Aid. They don't care.
Isn't Holder probing Holder?
Now, here, let me suggest something else. Maybe these controversies aren't that, I'm being the devil's advocate here. Maybe these controversies aren't that big a deal. Maybe it's something that the Republicans are just hyping up and are overplaying their hand.
Here's my question for Larry. In a hypothetical, theoretical world, give me a scenario where you would be outraged at something the president did.
Well, Dave, I'm gonna get to your question, but before, those are the worst scandals in the history of Washington.
In my lifetime.
In your lifetime.
I think so. Yeah.
You don't think the government targeting Americans, our own government targeting Americans, is one of the worst scandals?
I was on the show. I was on the show too. I was on the show too.
History. I mean, our government, this state bans guns, and then our government goes after us. You don't think that's one of the worst? Not in our lifetime, in our country's history. You don't think that's that bad?
You think this thing with the IRS is worse than McCarthy?
Much worse than McCarthy.
Wow.
That's only the government saying, I think you're a communist and you're on a list. This is the government saying, a branch of the government to which you cannot seek redress. You can't even go after them in court. Your main recourse is to get the people who appoint them out of office at the next election cycle. You have no means of going after the IRS, and they can do anything they want. They can confiscate your property. They can throw you on your rear end in the street. And you know what you can do? Vote the guy who put him there out of office. Yippee-ki-yay. This is, in my opinion, one of the worst scandals in American history. Name me one that's worse, your government coming after you.
I think I mentioned one. I mentioned McCarthy. I just said that. A couple things.
Tell me how that equates.
McCarthy.
I know about McCarthy. So
I didn't say you didn't know about McCarthy, but McCarthy, took out a witch hunt on individuals in regards to essentially.
Familiar.
I'm not done. In regards to the ideas. He had people fired from their jobs. I made reference to the story with my father and my mother on the show, if you recall, maybe a month or two ago. And that was clearly destroying lives. Here, with the IRS, what we're talking about, and I think it's got to be clear, and be made clear to the, to the viewing audience, that it's about looking at organizations and taking away their tax-exempt status. Now, I'm not done yet. And it wasn't that what was wrong, and Al says so, I say so, Chuck Schumer says so, is that conservative, and the president says so, that conservative groups were targeted. But after Citizens United, it would have been good if MoveOn.org was investigated. It would have been good had some other PACs been investigated.
Anyone I don't think vaguely liberal is what you're saying.
That would have been better.
It would have looked better.
No, it would have. It would have been better.
Just targets conservatives. It doesn't look right.
But you know why the questionnaire was a little bit different for the liberal organizations and the conservative organizations?
I know why.
By the way, I got argued by the
because
IRS,
the conservative organizations had to fill out a questionnaire saying, "What do you think about?" Well, the Democrats.
What are the content of your prayers?
And then, what's the content of your prayers? Well, the left may not pray. I don't know. Maybe they don't have that contact with God. I don't know. But obviously, the Democrats were not being held to the same standard and answering the same questions on a questionnaire.
But okay.
One thing before you go on, this is important. The Mets are winning 4-1. Is that correct? Can we get confirmation of that? 3-1, top of the 8th. Mets are up. We can argue about this stuff.
Get them to answer my hypothetical scenario. What would cause you outrage? What could this president do that would cause you outrage to throw in the towel and say, get this guy out of office? Because at my level, he's already achieved it 10 times over.
I don't think there is
leaving guys stranded in Benghazi while guys are calling for help, and help is a phone call away, and he says, "I'm checking out. I'm going to sleep."
But Dave, it wasn't him.
It wasn't
him.
Hillary Clinton says, "Hey, you know, we've got an election coming up in 5 months. We're not going to put our careers at risk."
The phone rang in the White House at 3 a.m. He wasn't there to answer it.
Dave.
It's the empty chair with Clint Eastwood, man.
Oh, yeah, Dave.
Absolutely.
How about how many Americans are dead in?
Are you going to? Oh my
well, no,
God!
but I'm trying to. The point
There
I'm
is
trying
no
to get,
equivalence
the point,
there. You can't.
4 dead, 6,000 dead, tens of thousands in VA hospitals who get little or no
Americans
appropriate
screaming
training.
for help. We went to war in Afghanistan when every leader in the world, except for I could count them on one hand, said that information is bad. Everybody else, all of our allies, including Cold War enemies like Russia, said that information is good. We went to war. They left 4 Americans to die because it would hurt his election chances. The phone is ringing in the White House, and tens of thousands of Americans are left to die in VA hospitals because of substandard
What's
care.
Obama done about it for 6 years?
What has he done?
What about the guys in Iraq? What about the guys? Wait, what about the guys in Iraq? No, what about the guys in Iraq who were given substandard armor?
Deflecting.
It's not deflecting. It's not deflecting,
He failed
Dave.
at his duty.
Dave, it's
He
not.
let down
It's not
American troops.
deflecting. Dave, it's not deflecting.
Defend Benghazi.
He can't.
I'm not. Dave, did I not
Did
say...
he do the right thing?
Did I not say that Benghazi was badly handled? You know, our ambassador was killed.
But it doesn't cause you outrage.
Dave, I try...
Give me the outrage scenario.
Dave, I don't... Dave, you're not a prosecutor. Look, it's...
You don't have one.
You're
going to sign off on this guy no matter what he does. There's no outrage scenario.
Dave,
you could have videotapes on this guy, and you'd be okay with it.
Videotapes?
Of him doing inappropriate things.
That's not true, Dave. That's not true. That's just not true.
All right. Which of the 3? Let me just ask. We're going to go down the line here because there's the 3 big ones. There's the IRS, there's spying on journalists, and there's Benghazi, where they lied to the Americans.
Okay, all right, go ahead, Marty.
Those 3. But I mean, the Benghazi thing still irks me because they basically had well, let's use your cover. Fiddling while Rome burned. We had that one. She went out and said, "What does it matter? What does it matter what happened in Benghazi?" And then this lady here, Susan Rice, went on all 5 major television and said that the reason that there was an attack on our consulate in Benghazi was a spontaneous uprising as a result of a YouTube video. It was made up out of whole cloth. It was a lie, all bold.
It was edited down 12 times to come up with that.
Never once in all they just downloaded something like 90 emails and went back and forth from the CIA. Never once was there any mention of a spontaneous uprising because of a video. It was a lie. And you know why it was a lie? Because it was an election year. And he didn't want to have a Jimmy Carter, Iran rescue of someone. Didn't want that. You know why they targeted the Tea Party? Because in 2012 or 2010, they just cleaned everyone's clock. They went after them with they just went after the Tea Parties with reckless abandon because they had the power and they could do that.
The Tea Party had the power, Marty, to quite frankly elect Democrats.
It's called
people. Okay, you can say that, but then why would the IRS target them? Why? That's not even up for debate. They admitted it.
No, that's not up for debate.
You remember the Planet question? They admitted it.
Marty, I know that's not up for debate.
So here's my question.
I wasn't arguing that.
Okay, here's my question. I'm going to start with Al. Okay. Of those 3, which are you most offended by, and which do you think is most dangerous to this administration?
Dangerous to their legacy.
Their legacy, their ability to get their agenda.
I actually don't even think Benghazi is consequential, frankly. I mean, for me, it certainly is. I find it grossly offensive that 4 men are crying for help and he lets them just go to their slaughter so that he can get reelected. But the American people knew what they were getting into and they voted for him. So if the American people don't care that Americans are dying in Benghazi, I think it's inconsequential, frankly. The freedom of the press and the IRS thing are close, 1 and 2, but 1 is still the IRS. The press, while the press is a direct affront to the First Amendment, there's more of them than there are of this buffoon in the White House. And so invariably, he'll target 1 or 2. They will circle wagons around themselves, and they can outgun him all day long. So they've just got a bigger arsenal than he has. And so I'm less concerned about that. The IRS, they care less about, frankly. The press does. And because the press cares less about it, Americans are in danger because of it. Deeply in danger because of it. And then when you don't have a means by which to seek redress against them, you have a serious abuse of power and a serious danger to the American people. The IRS thing is a big deal for me.
Marty, I have a question.
Okay, but answer the question.
I have a question for Al. I have a question for the panel. In
But
regards
it's
to the,
my
in regards
show. I get to answer
well,
the
you're
question.
the panel.
I think
You're
it's-
part of the panel.
All right,
If there were, if in one of those leaks, and it's, you know, and if we're about military information, and there was a leak, and American forces were killed because of it, would that be appropriate?
Isn't that what Nixon just said?
I think it was.
I'm asking you. If I don't think that's what.
No.
If
Here- okay,
American
okay.
forces were killed because the press leaked some information about some strategic maneuver that was going to occur, or where. All right, go ahead. Would that be okay?
You know what was leaked? What was leaked was information that the administration was intending to announce 1 day later. So this guy got information 1 day early on information that was going to come out the very next day. Now you tell me that put all of civilization at risk,
That's not
that
what I
our
said,
freedom
Dave.
was compromised?
That's not what I said.
Well, you kind of proposed
No, but you're making it sound that anytime there's any
I'm saying
investigation
that I'm
of a
being
leak.
specific.
I'm
this
speaking in general.
case,
That was
Eric Holder said that this was posed the greatest risk to freedom in America imaginable, and it was compromising millions of lives. And it was
I don't recall
1 day
Holder said-
early for information that they were going to announce, and they were mad because someone beat them to the punch. And over that, he attacks all these people in the press.
So I think what your point is, do governments have a legitimate right to have secrets and,
Well, I have a
and
question,
pursue
Marty.
prosecutions?
Is it
when
wrong?
this-
What, do you think this guy? What's his name? Bradley Manning, the WikiLeaks guy,
Yeah.
being prosecuted,
Yes.
right or wrong?
I think it probably is right that he gets prosecuted because he.
But he leaked.
Well, he
released
wasn't a
confidential
reporter, so
documents.
he wasn't a
Yeah.
reporter. I mean,
So
I'll actually answer your question. I'm actually going to answer your question.
Let's talk about the guy.
But I'm going to answer your question because the broader question that you asked which was a general question. If the press leaks, the press actually doesn't leak. Someone leaks to the press.
I understand that.
And so the question becomes: is freedom of the press absolute, even at the expense of Americans? I'm hard pressed to actually give a concrete answer on that because I want to say yes, but I also don't want Americans to die. If I had to choose between no freedom of the press and Americans dying, I'd choose Americans dying.
I choose Americans.
And so Obama should not be going after the press. And so actually, based on your own logic and you agreeing with me, you should be outraged by this. And you can't even define a point of outrage. It's staggering to me.
That proved my point.
It doesn't prove it.
The left cannot identify a single thing that this guy could do that would cause outrage, where they would pull the plug and say, get this bum out of office. And at my level, all three of these qualify him to be kicked out of office.
That's
grossly incompetent.
All right, that's...
So anyway...
Go ahead, Dave.
The one thing I wanted to bring up is with the IRS. So far, with this whole scandal, one person has been fired. Guess who was fired? A guy that was going to quit in 2 weeks anyway. Oh, no, I'm taking the firm stand. I'm going to fire this guy. He's quitting in 2 weeks. Oh, and the IRS person that was really in charge of all this, she's being promoted now to run Obamacare. That's going to be in charge of saying who lives and who dies. Guess what? If you're a Republican or a conservative, you think you're going to be on the live list or the die list. Figure it out.
Dave, by the way, I just want to get back a bit to, Anthony Weiner. We can't have him. He tweeted photos of himself naked.
Have you ever done that?
No, I haven't done that.
Have you ever done that?
All right,
Listen,
Dave.
I want to thank you for that.
Well, my wife and I do in the privacy of our own room is
He
no
shouldn't have
discussion.
done that, but no one died, no one lost money because of what he did.
Okay, so that's the standard. That's the standard. If you don't lose money,
you said
No,
that
Clinton
he
set the
can't.
standard. Let's
No,
face
you
it.
said.
Him and his cigar rolls set the standard for what
You know what I want
what
to
the
talk about with
baselines
Obamacare?
were.
So should that woman have lost her job in the public school?
You want to? Oh, that woman? Yes, she should have lost her.
Okay, so there is a bar somewhere out there.
He didn't.
Which woman was that?
Yeah, he didn't have sex with anybody. He just tweeted a picture.
Or anything.
Yeah, or anything. I want to talk. Marty, the show's kind of, it's pretty much, you might as well show reruns because it's it's pretty much the same thing.
So you
The IRS
you would
no, I
say,
no,
you
no,
would say that
what do you
we've
think?
had long enough discussions about these scandals. We really need to move on, right?
Skip over the facts.
Yeah.
go to something else.
Well, yeah, you know what I'd like
should.
to.
No, we should.
You want
That
to talk
guy
about facts?
resigned.
You know,
that
we
was
talk about
leaving
facts.
in 2
You want to
weeks
talk about
anyways.
facts, Marty?
I think
Marty,
everything's all cleaned up. We
did
should
you-
move on, don't you
Yeah,
think?
we should talk about
Get
the
over it.
We should talk
really
about
should.
the surplus that's going on in California. With all when you got the liberals, those. And they're the left coast liberals, so they're the Hollywood liberals.
Yeah.
So they're even loonier
So the
than
economy's
guys like
doing
myself.
really good in California.
California's in surplus.
Yeah.
Did you see California's one of the first states to implement a healthcare exchange
And those are,
under the
so Obamacare's working out really good.
that the costs associated with it are substantially lower than originally been predicated. The lower deficit. You have all these positives. We were talking.
I
about,
went through nice drone shot.
pretty quick,
Pakistan.
pretty drone
Housing
shot,
prices are
housing
running.
shot. Yeah, that was. You have 7 seconds.
So the idea
you have
is,
7 seconds
nothing
on
to see
positives.
here. Keep moving. The
Marty,
economy's booming in California.
Marty, but you see, Marty,
should be fine.
you see, Marty, you say that, but nobody else is
I
saying
didn't
that.
say that. You
no,
said that.
you said that.
Okay,
You
so
heard
the
Chuck-
economy isn't
you heard,
good, and we
no,
really
you heard
should
Chuck,
focus on this stuff?
You heard people like Al. You heard people like Chuck Schumer.
Yeah.
Certainly no fans of your beliefs.
Right.
And Al was very clear that this thing with the IRS was wrong. It was wrong
But there
because
are no
they're
consequences.
targeting.
Oh, it's
There-
wrong. No consequences.
There should be consequences. I agree, Dave.
Business
There
as
should be
usual.
conse-
Okay,
No,
what
there should be-
consequences? What would you go along with?
People. Well, I don't think the president should be impeached for it. I can tell
Why
you
not?
that much.
Do you know what the definition of treason is? It's betrayal of American trust. Do you think he betrayed American
Dave,
trust?
do you think George Bush did? No, I don't.
Okay,
that's Bush
that's
again.
irrelevant.
We're
That's
back to
irrelevant.
Bush.
There we go.
All right,
Bush
no.
again.
No, but I'm trying
First
to get
base.
No,
All right.
but it's like
Let me
first
let me
base,
put
yeah.
the same question
Yeah.
to you.
Go ahead.
Of the 3 scandals that we're dealing with that you so wish we would just gloss over and move on
Marty,
and get
that's
to the
not
good
what I
economy
said.
in
I
California.
just say it's not the only thing.
Okay, you're saying that it's a rerun of the show. That's what you said.
That's what I said.
Okay, so
Well,
that's
it's true.
kind of like what you're saying.
No, I just said you give it the appropriate amount of weight, not necessarily.
Maybe
more
a
so.
week or 2, and then let's move on. Which of these 3, IRS, spying on journalists,
List
or lying about Benghazi, which of the 3 do you think is most detrimental to the administration?
Benghazi, the.
Should we
I'll
come
think
back
about-
to you?
yeah, come back
We'll
to
give
you.
you a
I'll
little
think about
time
it.
to. It gets back to my opening monologue. They're having to come up with something right there.
I'll
You know,
think-
another- okay. By the way, if you'd like to join us, the phone number's on your screen.
I'll think about it. I'll give you an answer.
438-2003.
I'll give you an answer.
If you'd like to answer that question, which of the 3 scandals outrage you the most, or is it all just much to do about nothing? Don't hesitate to call 438-2003. Let's bring
Probably
it to local
Benghazi.
politics real quick.
Probably Benghazi, Marty.
Benghazi, you think it could potentially be the most hurtful to the
No,
administration?
well, you asked me which was the one that upsets you the most. That's what you asked.
Really? Benghazi.
Yeah.
I'm touched. This is good. So it's not,
So what would you
The-
do about it? What are the consequences for something like that?
I'd have to. Well, I'd have to think about it specifically.
right.
But
Let's talk quickly about the state of Connecticut. What's going on with the governor? What's this about the spending cap that they had passed by law? Is now they're going over the spending cap? The unemployment continues to be high. Is there any hope for the state of Connecticut?
Yeah,
Al, I'll
in
start
a
with
couple
you.
of years, there's hope when we get a new governor, and we can actually see some light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay, let's talk some inside politics
as
then.
long-
What do you think about Mayor Bowden? What do you think about Tony Boucher? What do you think about who would be a good Republican candidate for Governor? Jim Foley the next time, or Tom Foley?
Tom Foley.
Who would you say would be good?
How much money does McMahon have left?
She might give it another go. She's
my
shopping
Vizsla
again.
is a Republican, and he'd be much better than.
Who's that?
My Vizsla. It's a dog.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
It would be certainly better than Malay. It's a Hungarian hound. I'm
So
sorry. I
your
should-
dog would be a better candidate for governor than who?
Than Malloy.
Than Malloy. Oh, better than the governor. Okay. No, but who do you think? Who looks good to you?
So we've got Cafaro, we've got McKinney, we've got Foley, Bowden, et cetera. So we've got some credible candidates, all worthy opponents in the race. I think any one of them would be a terrific candidate.
And do you think all of them are running? Do you think Mark Bowden
Well,
is
3 have
gonna-
already said they're running. So
Give me the 3.
So you have Foley, you have McKinney, and you have Cafaro.
Okay.
They've already said that they're running. So that's
Were you
That's where the
were you at
field
the
is
Bush
right now.
dinner the other night with
No, I
the
wasn't.
governor from Wisconsin?
No, I wasn't. I
Seems
heard,
like
I heard
they're
he did
all.
a good job.
He was very good.
I heard he did a very good job.
Skywalker was very
So
good.
I had a Kodak moment with Senator Blumenthal on Saturday morning. I wish we had the cameras rolling.
How did that go?
Well, it went really well.
Was it a kumbaya moment?
Well, I thought so. I said, Senator, how are you? Glad, thanks for coming out in the rain to the parade and all. I really appreciate that. I said, can I just ask you a quick question on background checks? He said, well, sure, why don't you? And I said, the federal government's the largest supplier of guns in the world. So whether it's shipping guns to the drug lords who fast and furious in Mexico that end up killing our border guards, or whether it's shipping guns to the Muslim Brotherhood that end up killing our ambassadors over in Benghazi, I'm just wondering.
Whoa. The Americans shipped guns to the rebels in Benghazi?
Yes.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, we blanketed the whole country with guns. We're blanketing the entire country of Syria with guns. So I said,
Well, by the way, what was Senator McCain doing over there in Syria?
Don't get me started on that. Oh my God!
And all of a sudden he shows up. All right, but anyways, back to you and Blumenthal.
So, Senator,
this was in Reading?
I said, no, I got to ask you, are you doing background checks on these guys? Because it doesn't sound that way, because they're not really good people, if you know what I mean. Meanwhile, you want to take away our guns, and we're the ones that are paying your salary. Does that make any sense, Senator? What do you think he said?
What do you say?
I don't want
We'll
to
talk. And he walked away. Go figure.
Caller, tell us where we're wrong on all this and tell us why everything is going to be okay. Go ahead, caller.
Well, first of all, you're talking about scandals. And you say that there's 3 scandals. And the scandals are in the mind of the Fox viewers. These scandals, nothing's been proven yet. And you guys are so busy about the scandals. Let's look at the major problem that we're facing now, which is global warming. Let's concentrate on taking care of things that we can fix instead of inventing fake scandals.
Okay, but just out of curiosity, when the IRS comes forward and says, hey, we are targeting certain groups of Americans on their taxes, and they admit it, and the investigator general goes in there and does an audit and finds the same thing, why would you say that we're making that up? Doesn't that seem pretty conclusive?
Well, it's conclusive if somebody admitted it.
Well, they did.
No. Who are you claiming admitted it?
The IRS, the acting commissioner, he resigned.
Marty, this is where you have to be careful now. You have to be careful of your sources and where you're getting your information from.
I got the information from the commissioner of the IRS. That's where I got the information.
From the commissioner of...
Here, hold on. Let me hold up his picture for you. That guy. But anyways, the global warming thing is certainly something to consider.
400 parts.
It's climate change.
Climate change.
So,
Al, come on, Al.
This is what I love.
400
Thank
parts
you.
per million CO2, first time ever.
So here's what I love.
It's important.
People think that we can save the universe, but we can't keep people from lying or kick people out of office that have committed crimes. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, the whole global warming thing is a little,
It's
essentially
a little
the answer to global warming is raising taxes and giving it to liberal Democrats, right? That's the answer, right?
It's all control.
Yeah.
Well, it's carbon tax, Marty. Yeah.
Yeah, so we should just pay more in taxes, give it to liberal Democrats, and then the earth will stop warming. Is that
Marty,
what you're saying?
if we paid 0.1% of our net income as taxes, would that be too much?
No.
So what you're really saying, it's not a question that taxes are bad. It's just a question of degree.
No, I think that global warming is basically a desire for liberal Democrats to get more money in taxes. As a matter of fact, I think the last 10 years, global warming hasn't increased. As a matter of fact, you used to be able to ride a horse from the bottom of Manhattan to where the Statue of Liberty is now. During the Revolutionary War, it froze over. There's been climate change throughout history. Actually, my wife, who is in the Bass studio audience today, will tell you that the plagues in the Middle Ages, there was a mini ice age then, and then there was a global warming where they had not one wheat harvest, but actually 3 wheat harvests because there was a period of warming. green. Iceland used to be green. So the climate is always changing. And to take global warming, or what they now call climate change, because it could be colder, it could be warmer. Either way, you should pay more taxes. That we understand.
Marty,
I think is a ruse.
There was 1,000 years ago. Was there 400 parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere?
I don't know, but
no,
actually,
I don't think they.
Actually,
it's pretty important.
Like volcanoes went out and stuff like that.
It's pretty important, Marty.
Okay. Herein lies the thing where liberals are tied to science and are really, really smart. Well, so if they say there's global warming and you need to pay more in taxes, just listen. And if you disagree and offer suggestions like historical precedent for global warming and climate change, and that these things ebb and flow, have nothing to do with gasoline.
Earth to Marty.
Yes.
400 parts per million carbon. Yeah. On the front page of the Wall Street Journal. On the front page of the New York Times.
Yeah.
It's a pretty important thing. It's a measurable thing in terms of the amount of carbon in the atmosphere.
Therefore, there's global warming. We should pay more in taxes. Caller, we've got about a minute left. Oh, they hung up. Probably a victim of global warming. Guy. It could have been. You know you've made it as a talk show when you have Baba Booey's calling.
You know what drives the liberals nuts is they were getting so frustrated trying to prove this whole global warming thing that they snuck out at night and moved the monitors and stuck them in garages and started cars so they could get 400 parts per million. I mean, it's all on how you do the testing. Right?
I don't think that happened for real. Hold on, Al. We're about to wrap up. Give us your words of wisdom.
Yeah, real fast. Hey, you didn't bring up one topic that came up, that court thing that happened down there in regards to Chris Donovan. His plaintiff person was convicted of that whole matter with the roll your own tobacco situation. But in the video testimony, Larry Cafarro's name came out. I heard that Cafarro was one of the people that you were talking about running for governor. I want to know, how much do you think the damage has been done to Larry Cafarro's candidacy based on the fact that he basically accepted a $5,000 bribe by the head person in this rolled tobacco.
Okay. All right. Good question. We'll close with that. Good question. I'm getting the eye here. Okay. What about that? Is Cafarro? He's been accused of getting $5,000 donation from some nefarious origins. Do you know anything about this?
No, but I'd say what he would say if we were talking about Obama. Let's let the facts play out. And then we'll have that discussion when we get the facts.
Okay. All right. Lightning rod. Give me some good news. We're going to end with good news. Give me good news. We'll come back to you. Think about it. I'll give you some good news.
I've got great news. This is one segment of Obamacare, which started out, I think it was 2,600 pages originally. This is one segment. And the good news is that union members are now waking up. And you have the United Food and Commercial Workers International Union, which has 1.3 million members, saying, this thing stinks, get me out.
Quickly, good news.
Well, that was actually one of my pieces of good news.
Good news, Marty, outside. Lower health care costs in California, state surplus.
Chicago Blackhawks are going to win the Stanley Cup again. Watch that. And the Mets, did they win? They won! The Mets sweep! The Mets sweep! The Mets sweep! Forget all this. The Mets won. We'll see you next week.